Hey, welcome back to Mike's Diabetes World. Yes, I got things sort of all looking good finally. Let's take a look here. Current blood sugar right now is 7.5, fully calibrated. That one shows up again. Means I have 1 day left on my sensor. And if I touch it, it says 23 hours left. All good. Pretty consistent bolus, corrections, all in blue. Insulin here. I had some insulin given. Blood drops are when I took my blood sugars. So we're all looking fairly good. Now if we switch over, time in range, 76. We went over this the last video. This is really starting to creep up. This is average at 8.9. So we got to work on that a bit today. And so far we're promising. I've got to wait roughly about 2 hours to see how I'm doing. We want to increase this number. 70 is the cutoff, so all good. Today, I want to discuss T1D Looks Like Me. And I think I labeled this T1D Is Me. We'll be right back. This channel is provided for informational purposes only. Contact your physician for any diagnostic or treatment plan. T1D is me. What do I mean? It's sort of a play taken off that diabetes looks like me. Well, T1D looks like me. As you know, if you've been watching any of my videos, you know that type 1 diabetes is usually a childhood ailment. But we do grow up, and there are a number of type 1 diabetics out there that are now adults. And it seems like a number of people still think that we magically just disappear. And I can remember there's been videos on people saying, I got T1D when I was 30. T1D can show up at any age. It's usually concentrated at a younger age. Now, why is that? No one really knows, because they're not quite sure as of yet, or they haven't released it, why certain individuals' bodies start attacking their beta cells. And just flip to biology. Beta cells are what produces insulin. I have always wondered. I think we narrowed down to I got a virus. And it wasn't like I wasn't violently ill for weeks. I got a little scabby thing right here. And within a month, maybe a little bit more than a month, I was in distress. I didn't know it at the time. I just thought, I was drinking a lot. Yeah, I was tired. I was carrying extra weight, so being tired was nothing new for me. But it certainly did change. So I've had people, when they find out I'm a type 1, say to me, "Oh, you're not a type 1. Type 1 are kids." Well, I hate to tell you this, but kids do grow up. And then we become adults with T1D. And I've done videos of going into a hospital and into emergency because I've had a low. And the doctor saying, "Well, I don't think you need insulin anymore." Why? Well, you're obviously a type 2. We'll just put you on XYZ drugs and we'll see how you go. And I said, no. I am not a type 2. I am a type 1. And we did the C-peptide test and the whole thing. And he came back and said, "Oh, I guess you are a type 1. So, I've said before, we are all seem to be pigeonholed, that people seem to think that, oh, you're an adult and you have diabetes, you have to have type 2. And that's not the case. It may sound obvious to you, but as an adult, starting about 30, I was told, excuse me, that you are definitely a type 2. And I'm going, no. Type 1 here, have been since I was 13. So my friends, who are also my power of attorney now, if I get into an ailment where I am sick and can't speak for myself, definitely they know that I'm a type 1. And I need insulin, pure and simple. If I don't, within 2 weeks, I'm knocking at death's door. It's that quick for any type 1 diabetic. I don't care if you're a small child or you're a 90-year-old. If they stop insulin for a type 1, that's going to be the end of it. With the pump and delivering me insulin as I need it, It is so much better. Though I know if I have been off my pump for 2 hours, which has happened, even here, we forgot to hook up my pump after the morning routine here. My blood sugar started to go up. Why was that? It didn't spike super high. It was kind of mimicking before when my insulin stopped really working. And I would, well, maybe not totally, but my blood sugars were up over 33.3. And eventually I got sick. And I went into emergency, and this very bad. And they did tests, and they said, DKA. So, if your son or daughter's being told that they're type 1 and you go, make sure it's done. So, I could be a type 1, a young child could be type 1. I think they are really starting to break down this idea that type 1s are kids. It's magically at 19, you can't be a type 1, you have to be a type 2. There are kids because of more of our lackadaisical or sitting down doing video games all the time, have got type 2 diabetes now. There are people who are getting type 1 later in, they're still young, but later than traditionally thought. So are we all getting type 1s because of a virus? And just so you know, I got impetigo. Now that doesn't mean everyone who will get impetigo will get type 1. That's the only thing they could really say why I got type 1. And for a long time, I took my type 1 diagnosis as kind of like, yeah, I think they've made a mistake. But the difference between me on insulin and me off insulin, or when the insulin's not working, the absorption is like night and day. So if you meet a type 1 diabetic who's an adult, don't just assume that, they're a type 2. Don't assume that any child is a type 1. They're starting to overlap. The best thing for kids is to go out and be active. Yeah, they can have a certain amount of screen time and computer time, but instead of playing FIFA football on the computer, get a soccer ball, play out in the front yard. Most of us, with our friends, played out in the front yards. We did have that outbreak of that disease for a while, and we were all sort of confined indoors, and screen use got more and more. I think exercise is an overlooking for both type 1 and type 2. So, where do we kind of draw the lines? The question for anyone should be, when you find out they're diabetic, oh, really? And what type are you? Type 1 or type 2? Believe it or not, there are even some people out there, and I've met a couple of them. I was at an event downtown, fireworks actually, I think it was, and I had got in line for food and was chatting. Oh, I'm a type 1 too. Okay, and here they were drinking Coke and they were drinking it off. And I said, oh, really? What type? And, how long have you had it? And some things weren't adding up. They weren't really type 1. And I really don't know why anyone would want to impersonate this life. The limitations that are put on you, having to do your blood sugars 4 times a day, having to modify your medication requirements. But go past the outer shell and take a look and determine by asking them a question, what type are you? Type 1 or type 2? There are a number of other diabetes out there, but type 1, type 2 are the two major ones. So, we need to be more aware and help educate the general public. And I've brought this up in another video, saying, oh, do you have the good type or the bad type of diabetes? Well, they're two different diseases. And just in case someone's watching this and doesn't know, type 1, your body doesn't produce any insulin. It's not from what we ate. It's not anything we did. Our bodies attached and killed off the beta cells. Type 2 is where either your body doesn't produce enough insulin, or it doesn't use the insulin it does make effectively. And not everyone who's a type 2 is heavyset. I know a couple of people who are type 2 that are actually well weight controlled. My aunt was a type 2 for years, and she was a beanstalk. So, you never know. So, I don't have a problem with anyone asking me anything about diabetes, and I'll give them an answer from my experience. And again, this is my experience. This isn't anyone else's experiences here. This whole channel is more my experiences. Because remember, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a diabetes educator. But I do have experience living day to day with type 1 diabetes. And I hope that you may take something out of these videos. Go get it checked out with your doctor. Maybe help, maybe your doctor will say, no, that's not really applying for you. So, keeping yourself up on your knowledge helps. It also helps that you ask questions, and mentioned the imposter earlier, the questions he was saying back to me didn't meet up to, just the basics about diabetes. He really didn't know. He just thought it sounded cool. I call it an imposter. It could have been a scammer. I don't know. But diabetes does come in all different shapes and sizes at all different ages. Type 1s can happen later in life. Type 2 can happen in children. So asking the questions and coming up with how they live with their type 1 diabetes is probably the best bet. And with that, have a super day, and remember, T1D is me. Talk to you later. Bye. My email is mikesdiabetesworld@gmail.com. mikesdiabetesworld@gmail.com.